Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
And assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. This is me, your host, Preacher Moss. Those with the most, you are on the platform of the ShOUT show, the SOS. I want to give a shout out. I don't know whoever actually made this, but this is beautiful. This is a picture of the one and only Satchel Paige from the US, from the American League or Negro League Baseball. One of the greatest and most prolific pitchers in the game. I always loved Satchel Paige, so I decided I'm going to go out on a limb and put Satchel behind me and be inspired, particularly with the topic we're going to talk about today, winning conversations. And winning conversations will involve me talking about my process of communication and I want to say transactional verbiage in the workplace, in your business place, when you're building a company, things like that, when you go in to work with a company, internships, the whole aspect of networking. I thought it'd be a great topic to talk about today. Yesterday, we talked about how we break business concepts. Well, this is another way of how you actually frame your business concept. And this is through, of course, persuasive presentation, winning conversations. People say, what is a winning conversation? Well, to me, a winning conversation is where you come out with a lot more information than you went in with. And that information also, it translates into different things. You know, it's not enough to get an idea or get information about one thing. You want stuff that's going to take you to different places and allow you to grow even further in your communication, even further in how you're breaking concepts. Because the way concepts work, brothers and sisters, is that you space them appropriately. It's like farming. You space them, they have roots and grow, but they're all out of the same soil. And they require, in some regards, the same care, the same nurturing, but they're bringing forth different fruit. So we're going to talk about today here on the ShOUT show. Before we get knee deep in this, we got to give a shout out to Sister Ree, my dear Sister Ree. It is her birthday today. Woo, woo. Ree says she is 21 years old now. She's legally able to drink. God bless you, because Ree's son is 25. I'm some of y'all trying to do the math. I'm messing with it. We're going to give a shout out to Ree and her family, Brother Derek, Brother Jawad, and just a happy Thursday for everybody that just made it today. You know, sometimes when you start on a Monday, it's like, oh my gosh. And I also want to give a shout out to my landscape guy, Mr. Bobby. Mr. Bobby is not feeling well today. Mr. Bobby working out in that heat. I'm like, Mr. Bobby, you out there like a 1820 slave, brother. You got to get some water and dehydrate and some Gatorade and things like that. It's all right, Mr. Bobby. Why don't you work when it's dark? Be like my Uncle Earl, who would cut the grass in the dark. We thought it was crazy, and the grass would be jacked up. But you know, he never had a heat stroke. All right. Shout out to Mr. Bobby, of course. Anyone else that's not feeling well, hey, listen, du'as, well wishes, and we pray Allah gives you shifa and that you have a quick recovery. These are all the things that we're going to talk about on the show today, brothers and sisters. Wellness, and wellness in your communication, wellness in your conversation, if you will. Winning conversations is what we're going to be talking about here on the ShOUT show. So make sure you, during a break, before we kick off, make sure you get a pen, pencil, pad, because this stuff, brothers and sisters, is worth a lot of money, and I'm giving it to you for free. In the spirit of my good brother, may Allah be pleased, with the Original Kitchen, the information here is free. What you do with it is your business. Let's get rolling. This is the ShOUT show. I'm Preacher Moss. And we're back. We are back here on the Shout Out Show and Preacher Mars. So listen, before we get started, of course, we got to give a shout out to Sister Ree. She has reached another milestone, another trip around the sun. We appreciate you. Anybody else having a birthday, make sure you yell them and scream them out and everything else, okay? So let's start out. Sister Ree, listen, thank you, my Mars family, for beautiful birthday gifts. Love y'all. That's right. You know what? That was from all of us. The Mars family, the Shout Out Show family, that's from all of us, Ree. You know, you've done so much for so many people through the years. I mean, you're just getting back home for taking care of grandma. I mean, this just blessed. You're going to be blessed in your life. That's all I'm going to say. You're doing a lot of good things. You are going to be blessed in your life. All right. So we're going to send all those blessings to you and your family. And well, let's get some people up here who want to also say happy birthday to you. Next up, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Altaf Rashid, Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down, our Canadian ambassador to the show. Sir, I hope that you are going to be able to benefit from some of these things because I don't do this often. I really don't do this often. Very few people really know my methodology for speech and public speaking. I'm just going to share it here because this has been a week of sharing information. I just kind of feel like as much as we talk about a lot of current events and stuff, like it's really the stuff we see on TV, the Trumps, the January 6th panels and all that. It is a breakdown of people who have frustratingly low appetite for meaningful conversation. All right, so we're gonna go ahead. Next up, Altaf giving a birthday shout out. Go ahead, Altaf. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Little brother JT coming from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Brother and sister Bruce City, what's going on, Doc? Thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope you're having a blessed day. And you and the family's having a blessed day, man. I know I owe you a call, and you will get one soon, inshallah. All right, next up, my brother Bilal. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is your queen in the building, Sister Sonia? I hope so, because I think Sister Sonia will like this conversation we're about to have. If not, Bilal, take notes and make sure that you brief her as soon as we are done. Okay, good to see you, brother. I hope all is going well. Like I said, this has been a really, really good week for me. I would say it definitely started with the documentary that we were shooting last week, but it really picked up when I got to speak and spend time with the inmates in the Texas prisons. That was a very good deal. That was an extremely good deal for me. So I'm happy for that. Okay. Oh, you home alone? Man, what did you do, brother? What did you do? The queen left you. She has abdicated the throne. All right. Well, I'm sure she'll be back. You just got to act right, though. Bilal, you got to act right, okay? Bilal, be halal. That's what I'm going to say. I'll talk. You, my brother, on fire this week. All these should be featured on TikTok. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. You know, I'm trying to step up my game a little bit. You know, comedy is people ask me what is comedy. I'm like, comedy is really easy. Just so you know, comedy is really easy. Conceptual thought and things like that. Those are the things that really get me excited. You know, it just so happens to maybe be in front of an audience and people pay me, but this is really the real work. If there was a way to bottle this up and take it to some of these youth and take it to some of the brothers that are, and this is what we talked about in the prisons once the show is over. We talked about communication. We talked about how we write. We talked about how we frame ourselves. And it was an interesting conversation, even though it was hot as hell in the prisons. Whew. If you ever get locked up in Texas, make sure you do it during the fall and you out by March. Otherwise, you're going to burn up. Okay. Look at Satana. Satana said, you wrong. That's right. Thank you to my SOS family. We are all family, Sister Reed. You know, we got you covered. Thank you so much. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to, of course, our consultant producer, Sister Satana Whitfield, who's doing good things. I had a meeting with Financial Independence for Blacks, my board meeting. Oh, and they just sung the praises of Miss Satana Whitfield, who pulled together all. I'm doing my aunt, and then Satana put all together, letterhead, and they put on the cards. I was like, oh, all right. Satana's like, you wrong. I am wrong, but I can do a pretty good imitation of my aunt. God bless her. All right. Are we done? Should I start, Satana? Okay. So this whole idea of winning conversations, people think winning conversations somehow encompass that we're having an argument, that we're having some sort of debate. It is not that. A winning conversation is somehow, someplace you are able to mine for proper information that's going to fulfill or inform the decisions that you're going to do moving forward, whether it's business, whether it's relationships, whether it's family. You have to be in a place whereby a winning conversation also means that you're not necessarily the larger beneficiary, at least at the beginning, but you will be some type of a meaningful beneficiary from this process. So I'm going to tell you guys what I use this for. Let me give a shout out, Sister Aika, all the way from Tepak, Indonesia. Waalaikum assalamualaikum, welcome to Barakatuh. Hope you're doing well, you and your family. Brother Eric checking in. Waalaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, brother. Just shout you out. Thank you for tuning in. But this whole idea of winning conversations for me spurred from the fact that at a certain point in my life, I worked as a consultant with professional athletes to help them transition from amateur sports to professional sports and professional sports to regular life. Again, it's amateur sports to professional sports to regular life. What this encompassed, brothers and sisters, is that they entered a lifestyle whereby everything they did had value, plus value, negative value. And we asked, and I worked with Brother Reginald Kitchen, we asked what is it that they can control in these environments? And what they can control and frame is conversation. And we said, if we can get them to understand the value of meaningful conversation in a context where they're already competitive, then it should be not too much of a leap to have them understand what a winning conversation is. You see, and winning plays are not the winning basket. It's the pass that happens before the basket. You know, a winning play in basketball is a defensive play, a proper guess or a block or something like that, which leads you to the fact that these are a chain of like events that will allow you to engage other events that may not be the same, but the protocol still fits. Usually when I do persuasive presentation, brothers and sisters, I tell folks that I have to put you in an unnatural position. So I would like everybody to do this exercise at home. You don't have to do it at home. But I want you to frame a story about your favorite fruit, your favorite food. Maybe a 2-minute conversation about your favorite food, maybe how it's prepared, maybe how somebody prepared it for you. And before you start, have somebody as a coach who will listen to what you're saying. But this is what I want you to do. Don't just say it. I want you to frame misnomers. I want you to put in there distractors that won't allow you to tell a story the way you want to tell it. Per se, if you're going to tell a story about your favorite food, how it's prepared, tell a story. But here is the condition. You'll learn about conditions also. The condition is you can't use the vowels A, E, or O. So you can't use words with the vowels A, E, or O. And what you're going to find is you will really start thinking hard about what words you're trying to use. You will find other aspects. You might just draw a picture of what you're doing or act it out to make sure that the person gets the full bounty of what you're trying to say or what you're trying to convey. When I used to do it with clients, they hated me. So what? It's part of a process. Because this particular process of persuasive presentation is specifically designed to do this. One, you're going to embed yourself in a conversation. People think I have one conversation, that's it. No, you have the beginning of a conversation and you always have the right and the ability to revisit the conversation. Most of the time, we are really, really horrible about revisiting conversations, unless it's a conflict. Would you say, hey, last time we ain't doing that? This is the idea that we're going to take a pro-intellectual approach to what was said here, and we're going to re-engage it. But you're going to re-engage it because you put a bookmark there. I always say, you put a plot point there, whereby when you go back to a conversation, you can start right there. If you ever been to the doctor is going to look at your file, everything you did, and he's going to say, so what's going on? He says, what's going on today? It's very much the same with persuasive presentation. You're going to have accrued knowledge already. But why would you use accrued knowledge when you already use it? That's being redundant. With this plot point, you're able to also look at everything that's happened from this point in time and have forward thinking, or want to say, I would say driven or derivative driven conversation, whereby the person that you're speaking with will remember that conversation, but now the tonality of it changes. You want to be able to take the conversation where you want it to go. But again, when I talk about wins and losses, we're talking about positioning. A lot of times as a comedian, and I shouldn't give this secret away, but I'm going to give it away, I literally engage in persuasive presentation. I read the audience, and instead of starting a joke here, I start a joke here. I find somebody, and sometimes you can look at the face, you read the room, that person, if I can make that person smile, I can make this 15 people over here laugh. Because the people over here know that this person doesn't really smile at all. And the idea that this person somehow having a good time allows everyone else to have an even greater time. When, what am I saying? I'm increasing the valuation or the experience for people. I'm giving them a much higher valuation of the experience. And when they talk about it, they talk about the experience, but they talk about you. In interviews, oftentimes, you have to be able to plot. Put a plot point here, stick a pin here, and make the interviewer come back to that point because it's your strongest point. Whether it's your skill set, whether it's your ideology, whether it's your resume in terms of execution, you should be able to turn that around. Now, in comedy, we call it a callback. That I could say something that was really funny, and then 20 minutes later, I could say it, and you'll still laugh like, ha, 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 ha. Thus, the joke. The classic joke, do not wear your shoes in the voodoo area, is built upon the fact that I've learned persuasive presentation from where I used to work with athletes and where I was with a teacher to better build communication between myself, my students, and my environment around me and also around you. That's what I meant to say, around me and also around you. So I'm encouraging everybody to challenge yourself a little bit. You're used to talking a particular way and being heard. I'm saying talk and challenge yourself, whereby the cerebral cortex is going to kick in because you've now limited yourself in a way that you build resistance that builds, one, your vocabulary, and two, sharpens your acuity in terms of what a conversation looks like. Nobody likes to waste words in a conversation. In a business format, and we're going to take a break here in a minute, but in a business format, you have very little opportunity to really insert yourself. You have very little opportunity to say, this is what I think. But with persuasive presentation, what you learn is it's a procedural thing. To get in and understand, one, what the conversation is or the communications are at this point in time, still holding on to what you think is important, but learning, meshing, taking the things from this environment. It's like a wheel, taking things from this environment. The wheel is going this way. The more and more you learn and implement, the wheel slows down. And with persuasive presentation, it slows down. And at some point in time, it starts going this way because you have the aspect of what you learn, but the aspect of what you bought. That thing, that plot point becomes even bigger now because your ideas become bigger in a bigger marketplace. And they are uniquely your ideas to the point that when you leave, people don't want you to leave. They don't want you to quit because they haven't taken a strong inventory of exactly what happened while you were there. Long conversations, short conversations is the same thing. So I know I'm rushing through things. Forgive me. Satana, you don't have to tell me. No, we got to take a break right here. We're going to be right back talking about winning conversations, persuasive presentation here with Preacher Moss on the ShOUT Show. Hey, babies. Welcome to Radio WCUC, Convenient Urgent Care, home of the smart patient. This is DJ What It Do. You know what time it is. It's the top of the hour, and the request lines are open. You know what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear. Operators are waiting.
I just got to hear, don't get the COVID.
Don't get the COVID. Put your mask back on. The Delta COVID, more contagious than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get the vaccine. You know that it people living up in your space. Don't get the COVID, you need to wash your hands. The Delta COVID is more deadly than before. Don't get the COVID, go on and get your vaccine. You know that it can keep you from dying. Don't leave your family all alone and crying. Don't get the COVID.
We invite you to join our fight against COVID and against misinformation. It's time to listen to the doctors and trust the science.
When I think of people dying that don't have to die, it makes me sad. Now's the time to be sober. Together we can make this thing over. Let's fight the COVID. Convenient urgent care, home of the smart patient.
All right, we're back. Shout out to Convenient Urgent Care. So someone asked me, what is persuasive presentation? And without flinching, I told them, this is a concept box for how I do communication. Again, we're going to be beating ourselves to death for how you build concepts. Yes, there's a concept box for how I do communication. A really, really good musician friend of mine years ago, a guy named Gerald Canning, played bass. And I used to ask him about the implication of playing bass in different bands and stuff like that. He said, first of all, when you get into a band, you listen for two things. What is good sound and what is noise? Let me say it again. What is good sound and what is noise? And I said, how can you explain that to him? He said, sound is the rhythm that comes out of the band naturally when they all play together. He said, noise is the solo. Noise is the thing that has to follow the rules that the band has laid out before you ever have a solo. You have to play a particular key. You have to play particular chords. Otherwise, you break down the sound of the band. And what you are playing is not sound. It's noise. Acceptable noise. But if you don't follow the rules, it's distraction. That being said, when we talk about persuasive presentation, I am trying to help everybody leverage this idea that in every conversation, you do have value. If you approach it with the fact that a winning conversation is not, I shout you down, or I have to win, you have to lose, that's not the focus of this concept. The focus is I must be able to get in this space and extract information that's going to help me build my model for communication in this particular area. Per se, when I go and speak at prisons, one of the things I've learned is I'm not going to come and yell in the microphone. I'm not going to yell in the microphone. When I walk into a show to do a prison, I listen to the tonality of how the inmates speak. I find out who's the loudest person, and I set my decibel level just below that person. And what happens is that loudest person is the person who's the noise. Right underneath it is the sound. And you lay right in the sound. And so when you're speaking, there's a soothing that comes to it. So you can literally do anything you want to in terms of material conceptually. But I also try to take time. Now, many of you may know this or not, but at prisons where I've visited numerous times, I make notes about the plot point. Who was the person I talked? And when I'll go there, I'll ask about that person because I know if that person is there, people are still responding to their voice. And so I frame my acoustics appropriately. It's the same thing with persuasive presentation. You should be able to frame and plot where you want a conversation to go by virtue of the fact that you're revisiting it and another person or another group had absolutely no intention of revisiting it. You're revisiting it with a fresh coat of paint. You're revisiting with something that happened 3 weeks ago, but you're up to date what happened the next 3 weeks. In a business protocol, and I say this often, in a business protocol, your value is the ability to revisit that thing and make it fresh for everybody. Any analyst, any research and development person will tell you that everything that's constructed in terms of their business is largely about how do we progress? How do we inform moving forward? The data, the analysis, the assessments, all of that stuff has to do with we don't want to remain stuck in this situation. And persuasive presentation as a communication tool helps people not be stuck in that space. So when you pull a pin out, people don't even know that. You just know that this was the most fervent part of the conversation of everything you got out. If you're talking about politics and you had 3 or 4 things you threw out, and you knew right here, everybody was very, very adamant and passionate about school reform. You know, you could put a pin in school reform, and maybe school reform had to do with special ed or conversational here about property taxes. And you know, everything or the high point of property taxes was people wanted them reduced, but they also wanted greater services. You see, you tie all of these things into conversations that legitimately are only going to last maybe at best 5 to 11 minutes. 5 to 11 minutes. Now you're realizing how important it is when you're applying these things and you have these plot points, how important your plot points are moving forward. A lot of people don't necessarily think about it. I think about it. As a journalism major, as a journalist, as a writer, you have to have an understanding of tonality of conversation. Nobody talks about this enough. Jazz guys talk about it. I listened to it my whole life. Can you imagine listening to a gospel song that has no emotion, that has no free frame? Can you imagine Amazing Grace? If they only said Amazing Grace one time, it's going to be a pretty sucky song. Well, I take that back. Maybe not. But my point is, to be able to bring that back and present it in new and different ways with refreshed and nuanced information is a valuable tool. An extreme, as a comedian, people tell me, oh, that's a new joke. It's not a new joke. When I told the joke, it was only A to B. Next time you see me, now it's A to M. And next time you might see me, it might be A to Z. But that is the constant effort of trying to work and make sure that those plot points, when I pull a pin, there's something fresh I'm going to bring to it. So think about what I talked about. The whole idea of ingratiating yourself, embedding yourself, those plot points, embedding yourself in those conversations, and willingly going back to embed yourself even more. You know, in the office, a lot of times they say, who's the most important person? You know, the most important person is the secretary and the office manager. You know why? Because they are the ones that are inundated with information. They know everybody, what time you come in, who called you, and they have this whole scope of just brain activity. When they leave, I've seen this, when the secretary didn't come into work or office manager quit, the whole place was in chaos because they took that information with them. That's why they need to be paid better. That's another story. But even with project management, you have new project management templates and all that. And the templates really go to the fact that you have to plot everything with who you're talking with. We don't even need a template. We just talked about it with persuasive presentation. Now, how you use it to your benefit, how you grow your value with it, that's something we're going to have to pick up on another show. I don't want to go over it, but listen, you guys have been amazing. Let's go ahead and get to our sponsors before we get up out of here. All right. Hey, thank you very much, Mama Son. I appreciate your checks in the mail. All right. You got to pay your fans. Give a shout out to BeFinancialIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinancialIndependent.com at 202-508-3870. Again, that's 202-508-3780. I'm sorry about that. And we'll give a shout out to Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Go to bayanonline.org, and that's bayanonline.org as well. We want to make sure we give a shout out to ushub.tv. Ushub.tv, Brother Schwabe and Brother Harrison doing big work over there. Got a comedy special coming your way, brothers and sisters. So please pay attention for that. And what are we going to do? Where am I without Convenient Urgent Care? Go to www.convenienturgent.com. Again, that's www.convenienturgent.com, home of the smart patient. And we can't forget, of course, Islamic Relief USA, who has been graciously trying to help us move along, and they're doing great things here. And we look forward to future partnerships with them. That's our time, everybody. And that's a half hour. You know why it's a half hour? Because I use persuasive presentation. Damn, I'm good. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you Monday.